I've journaled for over 100 days, and the title isn't clickbait, it's changed my life. In this video, I'm going to brief through you my journey of journaling, the benefits I've experienced as a result from it, teach you some of the methods I use in journaling, and give you some advice I wish I knew when I first started out. I started journaling because one day I had a scary thought. My friend had called me and asked how my week was, and though I know most of what was happening, I didn't know the details, and not knowing what happened to me just the week prior, let alone the month before, really scared me. I had a spare journal that was given to me for free, and I just started out with my to-dos and little briefs about my day, nothing major. Eventually, as the weeks and months had gone by, I'd enjoy writing more and more, and would write more as a result, giving each day a page or two depending on how I felt, recapping these three things: what I did today, how I felt, and my goals for the next day to keep me organized. I'd have never known that this journal and this small habit that I picked up would turn into a complete change in the way I function throughout the course of these journals I've filled up so far. I'm not going to claim that journaling will turn you into some sort of productivity guru or something, but this habit has translated into some tangible benefits. The first obvious benefit is being able to actually look back on my day, my week, my month, even like a few months back, and see where my head was at. It's really cool to see what I was focusing on, what I was worried about, and what I look forward to. And that's something that you can just see tangibly by writing every day. Additionally, I always made sure to write down how I was doing mentally, and I'm not going to say that writing down your mental problems is going to fix them, but it certainly helped me through processing and learning how to overcome these things. So that's something really cool that I take away, is that it can help improve, at least for me, my mental health, how I was doing, and how I dealt with mental health problems. And like any skill, writing is something that you can improve upon by doing it multiple times. I'm not some crazy Shakespearean writer or anything, but I've certainly seen the growth from where I started to where I'm at in terms of my ability to write concisely, efficiently, and descriptively. So that's something really cool. I take pride in my writing now. That's not something I always have, but journaling has certainly helped me grow and develop that skill. Over the course of these 4 journals so far, I've definitely developed my own sense and style of writing, of journaling, of keeping up with what I'm trying to do. And I want to emphasize that there's no correct way or incorrect way to journal. However, this is how I write my daily entries and other stuff that I write too. All right, this is how I quickly track my monthly habits. You'll see on the left that the date is there, dating each day. I'll have the month at the top, the date here with my highlight of the day, any sort of habits I have, and my mood out of 10. Now, you can have as many or as little habits as you want. I personally sometimes keep up to 6 and sometimes as little as 3 or 4. It just depends on how you're feeling. If you want to keep track of a certain amount of things each month, there's no right or wrong way to do it. I'll emphasize that again. So I'll quickly write an example one for you right here. So let's say that on this 3rd day, the highlight of my day is I went fishing with my brother. So I will say that I went fishing with my brother. Very simple. And these habits, how I track them is I will fill in a full square if I did do the habit, and I will write an X if I didn't. In this first example, I have 2, and in this one, I have 5. Keep in mind, for the whole month, I will keep the same habits tracked, so there will be lines across the whole page in terms of what habits I did each day, but these can be things like I read a chapter of a book, or I exercised, or I ate healthy, or I did something creative. So let's say those are the 4. So let's say I did most of those habits, but maybe I didn't eat healthy. As a result, I would fill in each habit that I did do, and then write an X for the one I did not do. And over the course of the month, you'll see the full sort of spreadsheet, and you'll see all the ones that you did track and ones you didn't track. And then let's say that day was a pretty good day, maybe one of the best days. I'll say that was a 9 out of 10 because I had really fun fishing with my brother. I can show you what these look like across the course of a month. I'm going to blur out what I wrote each day, as that's personal to me. But you see here, I have all my habits, which I'm also going to blur out for the sake of this video. You can see maybe this month I wasn't super on top of some of my habits that I wanted to do. I'll say this one is reading, and I only read 2 times this month, so maybe that's something I learned from and applied into June, which is the next month. This is a quick way to show you how I write my daily entries. Let's say that today is the 3rd of August. I will write what I did, usually a very quick, brief synopsis of the key events, and then maybe go into detail on what sort of events stood out to me and how they made me feel, how they were, any sort of things I want to remember if I were to be looking back on this. Then I kind of touched on it a little bit, but how I'm feeling, whether that's with the stuff today, maybe stuff I talked about yesterday or a week before that I say I'd touch back on later, taking time to write how I'm feeling and maybe processing those emotions. And then my goals for the next day, maybe this is in terms of like how I'm feeling, like maybe I hope to work towards this level or that. That could be my physical goals for next day, like I want to wake up and work out and do all this and do XYZ. That would be where I put it here. But just a very quick overview, there's no right or wrong way to journal. That's just how I've formatted and curated the way I write. And then if we're talking to-dos here, I used to write them here or on my big journal, but I've since gotten a little flip notebook here that you can see. I will write all my to-dos here that I have each day. And granted, I might not have a whole lot of to-dos each day, so if there would be that, I would combine them with ones I have yesterday just until the sheet's full. But let's say my to-dos are you can write your to-dos how any sort of way you want to. I usually write the date at the top, so let's say it's the 3rd of August. I'll write here to-dos. And you just kind of go from there. Outside of my monthly habit tracking and my daily writing and to-do lists, I use my journal just for general note taking and ideation on paper. So there's a lot of other things. I don't want you to feel restricted to, oh, I just have to have daily this and weekly this and monthly this. In these notebooks, I have so much general notes, whether that's like grocery lists or job interview prep stuff that I need to prep before my interview, drawings, anything you want to put in your journals, feel free, and I would highly encourage to throw it all in. I want to highlight again, there's no right or wrong way to journal, and just throwing all of my ideas into my books makes it feel more authentic to myself and to who I am. That transitions really nicely into some advice that I want to give to you if you're a beginner journaling or have found a motivation to journal again. My first piece of advice is to temper your expectations. You might be super motivated at the start to write like 5 pages or 4 pages, a whole lot each day. And I certainly was too. I realized that I got burnt out really quickly, probably like a few days later, and kind of didn't really write that much as a result and skipped days. The same can be said with any skill. When you first start running, you don't want to run a marathon or a half marathon right away. Start with something small. That's how you build a passion and ability for it, is by starting small and then working your way up to wherever you feel is comfortable. So I would say temper your expectations for sure. My second piece of advice when you're starting journaling is to not feel limited by any sort of expectations you place upon yourself. When I first started, I really just wanted my habit tracking, my to-do lists, and my blurbs about my day. And whenever I think of an idea, I'd be, oh, it doesn't fit the aesthetic, or this would mess up the whole order of pages if I have this one thing in between that, even though I really want to write about, it just doesn't fit in my journal. Limiting yourself can limit the sort of creative freedom you're allowed to have and allowed to try. You might write down something and be like, hey, I really like writing about this. And you keep writing about it. And then you realize that you write a whole bunch of stuff about something that's really cool. And being limited by some sort of aesthetic or expectations that you place upon yourself when you first start out can limit your creativity, and something I would highly recommend trying to avoid. My third piece of advice is enjoy your time spending journaling and make it a very fun experience to journal. Listen to music or light a candle or something fun that you like doing. Do it outside. Do it wherever you feel very comfortable, because when you incorporate things you like into your journaling space, you'll turn it into a spot that you want to constantly come back to and encourage writing. When I first started out journaling, I wanted there to be no distraction, so all I could do was focus on writing. And that made it a much less enjoyable experience. It wasn't until I opened myself up to having those fun experiences, like listening to my favorite album at the time, or having writing outside at any time of day, that I just felt like putting pen to paper. It made journaling a much more fun experience that I was drawn constantly back to each and every day. Overall, I've become a much more mentally and physically organized person as a result from journaling, and that's something I'd never take back from the world. I know when I'm 10, 20, however many years older, and I want to look back on what I was thinking, I got all of these guys to thank, and I'm so grateful for starting this journey myself. If this small video that's not going to reach anyone at all helped encourage you to start journaling, or at least help change the way you're thinking about approaching your day-to-day life, let me know down in the comments below if you have any other thoughts, or if you want to share your experience journaling so far. I'd love to hear it. Thank you all for watching. Treat others like you want to be treated, and peace out. Until next time, love others.